I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is Our Nerdiest Thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today we are discussing our last section of A Soul of Ash and Blood, the chapters New Haven to the very last chapter, Present 12. Before we get into it, Deb, will you please share about our nerdiest cocktail?
Absolutely. Tonight's drink is named Fire in My Loins, and it's themed after some hot, passionate sex, both loving and angry, and it pairs well with betrayals, sexy maiden throats, and stab wounds. You just need a little bit of spicy vodka, which we highly recommend the Hellfire vodka from Brown Brothers Distillery. You can order it online. It's from Galena, Illinois. We went there on a girls' trip. Actually, the trip where we discussed doing this podcast for the first time.
That's true, yes.
Nice.
And you will need orange liqueur and cranberry juice. It is quite tasty.
It is really
And my
good.
loins are always on fire, so I can't tell any difference, but I'm sure it works.
Before we get into anything else, Mindy, have you spun the Wheel o' Names?
I have, and guess who? It's Whitney.
Me. Well, I am glad that I wanted to be prepared because I did get picked and I have a list of top 10 quotes.
Whitney, you're not supposed to prep for the
can't
nerdy and dirty recap.
Fly on the seat of my pants? That's not how it is.
You fly
by the seat of my
or
pants.
off the seat of your pants, or your loins, or
Out
whatever.
of the seat of my pants.
Yeah, you fly out of your pants a lot.
Because my loins are on fire.
Exactly. The loins are on fire.
It all comes full circle.
That's right. All right.
Okay.
Hold on, Whitney. I got to count you down since it's your turn. And last time I counted you down, I did it wrong on my hand. So I want to try this again. All right. Are you ready?
No.
1, 2, 3, go.
All right. First, Elijah, we all know what is ultimately a risk here. If we've got to bleed for that, we will. Number 2, Elijah again. Speaking of bloodied hands, I see Jericho's missing one. Number 3, Hawk. She didn't deserve the position I was putting her in. Not sexually. Number 4, Hawk. But I wasn't a good man. I was just hers. Number 5, Hawk. I could come from just the taste of her. That is sexually.
Ew.
Number 6, Hawk again. I can't do this. No matter what, I needed to find a way out of this for Poppy. Number 7, Hawk to Orion. Yes, I know. You were just doing your duty. Now do it again. I thought that was hot. Number 8, Hawk again. I could have told her. I should have told her. I knew it immediately. It was over. Number 9, Elijah about Delano. Damn, my little marshmallow's getting kind of crispy. And last but not least, Compound from Hawk. And I was still me, but not. I was something else. Thick lashes flutter, lifting to reveal eyes that were pure molten silver, the primal of blood and bone.
Oh, perfect.
Wow.
That was awesome. Way to go. Don't cheat next time.
That was it. But look how good I did. I mean, you can't deny the results, right? I'm taking a bow for everybody. All right, Mindy, will you do our nerdiest vocabulary?
Sure. This week, I'm going to do a character that actually doesn't appear physically in this section, but he's talked about. Can you guess who it is? We hate him.
Mazine?
No, Alistair.
Oh,
He is in this section.
Not physically. He doesn't.
that's true. We don't actually see
We don't
him.
actually see him. He talks about how he met with him at Berkton or wherever that was. So, Alistair. It comes from the Scottish name Alistair with a D, which is a version actually of Alexander, and it means defender of man or man's defender. Ironically, he does believe that he is defending his people. So I did go to the Urban Dictionary, and so Alistair is spelled differently than I am used to it. I always thought it was Alistair, but it's
It's
just
spelled in the book.
it's TIR actually.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, shows what I know.
I did not mean for that to sound bitchy.
That's because
It's TIR
You
actually.
do audiobooks.
But
That's
I
true.
read these too.
Well,
Not well.
I was trying to help you out.
You know, there's a lot of science between putting letters in where you don't think they're supposed to go if it makes sense to you. That's the thing.
So there were some very enlightening entries in the Urban Dictionary. There is only one for the actual spelling, but I found a couple others for the ALISTAIR spelling. So
The right way.
the Deborah way. So I am going to share those as well because they were hilarious. But the actual entry for the actual spelling, he got a big dick, pulls out good as fuck, and gives bomb head.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, he's been alive for like
Makes you blush a little bit.
800 years. I hope he knows how to do it at this point.
Is it a rule for Urban Dictionary that you have to talk about the size of somebody's dick to put in?
It's like Amazon with indie authors. They only get their reviews up after they've had 50. So an Urban Dictionary thing doesn't go up until there's a word dick in it somewhere.
It definitely seems.
You all have to understand too that I'm curating these, right? Like you all know that I leave off the lame ones where they're like, he's the coolest person ever.
Golly gee.
Golly gee willikers.
What a swell guy. He's bitching.
So that one is there. And then there were two with the other spelling. The first one is someone who is destined to always be a virgin.
Aw.
No, I think that fits.
Maybe that's why he's so pissy.
He has a
did
kid,
have a kid,
so.
but...
Well...
Maybe
but if he gives
Maybe he
bomb-ass
used a
head,
turkey
I
baster.
bet he's having a lot of sex. So.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if he gives head, that doesn't mean he's using his...
If he gives good head, he's getting sex. Come on.
It said he pulls out good.
True. That is
It's got to
true.
be in.
That is true.
If it's going to go out.
So we have a little bit of a... dueling perspectives there.
Duality.
So this one is sort of a mixture. So the final one is a person who loves the ladies, usually has a head larger than his body. And I'm assuming they mean like his actual like face. I don't know. Skips. But they could mean the other since, I mean, he got a big dick.
That sounds like a medical problem.
Skips.
I just think the South Park of the counselor. What's his name? His head's huge.
I don't know.
The guy
I wasn't
says,
allowed
Aren't
to
all
watch
their
South
heads
Park.
a lot bigger than their bodies?
His looks like a balloon, though. The one that's like, okay, don't do drugs, okay.
I don't know South Park, honestly.
That's a travesty.
Okay, moving on. He has a head larger than his body. He skips all his lessons to hang around with friends, and he wears the same clothes every day and thinks he is cooler than anybody else.
That is Alistair.
It tracks.
That does track, yeah.
Why would he change his clothes or bathe if he's not getting laid?
No need to try different outfits. This is just, none of this is working for me.
Right.
So I'm just going to give up completely.
But you know, when you like hurt little kids and try to destroy people and tie people up with deity bones and then, you know.
I guess dirty clothes is the least of his offenses.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Is he supposed to be good looking?
I definitely do not picture him good looking.
I don't think he's supposed to be ugly, but I think she really just talks about like his coloring and his hair is similar to Victor's, and he's got a scar on his face that she's like, oh, if he's a wolven with a scar, it must have been like a really bad wound. But I don't know that she talks either way about like his handsome
Yeah.
I always
elder
picture
face.
him really old.
I do too, but I don't think any
I
of
don't
them
think
actually look old.
none of them should.
I'm picturing him like in his 60s.
Yeah, I mean, I picture him with like
I picture
salt and pepper
like
hair
40s. I picture Castile looking like he's in his 20s.
Right.
And his parents and Alistair looking like they're in their 40s.
See, I don't picture his parents as old as I picture Alistair.
Right.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
Maybe he's older than
It doesn't mean that that's correct. That's just how I like, immediately pictured him, and obviously can't get rid of that out of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's like Vanilla Ice. That's the first kind of blonde that popped into my head.
Are you still thinking about Vanilla
You think he's
Ice
got
after last week's episode? Is that what it
Do you
is?
think he has frosted tips or something?
Maybe.
That would explain a lot. Only douchebags do their hair like that. So maybe that's why he can't get laid. He's got frosted tips. He wears the same clothes.
Oh, man. Well, let's get into this last section of the book. Should we start with what our favorite moment was?
Yeah. What's yours, Whit?
Mine is the last chapter. I wrote down specifically Cass devouring the Revenant. Yes, king. But that whole scene of the like fighting and the sudden shifting and the description, like he's ripping the guy's arm off and then rips his leg from the knee down. Yeah, I was like, what?
And he pretty
While I was
much
reading
like
it.
hollows out his stomach. It sounds like, and like just eats him.
Well,
Eats him up.
Yeah, and like chomps on his neck to decapitate his head from his body and stuff. Well, I guess that's a redundant way to say that. Anyway, to decapitate him. And then just like how messy it all was. And I liked it. I feel like I sound like a total weirdo in the way that I just said all that.
Well, no, that was my favorite moment.
When it was like really violent and really bloody. And I was like, That's what I feel like I just sounded like.
I didn't know it turned you on. I just thought you thought it was a cool scene.
Kink
until
unlocked,
I read
Whitney.
it. I know, right? That makes me sound like a psycho. Was that your favorite moment?
It was. It was.
It was good.
So, I mean, for me in particular, though, I had put the motherfucking cave cat named Castile. So I'll tell you what I really liked about it. Not only did Cass shift for the first time ever, but he did a touch her and die trope type of moment, like very, very well, right? Because as you know in the book, a revenant shows up with some sort of crazy bone knife thing that can incapacitate a primal, and it completely knocks Castile onto his ass, and he can't move at all. So instead he gets so angry that he shifts into a cat and pretty much eats the revenant, like you just said. And I really adore that Cass and Kieran are so excited that Poppy's going to get to shift.
Yeah, I know.
It's a cute, like, our girl's going to get what she wants moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really loved the scenes, and for obvious reasons other than the fact that Poppy's dad, Aries, is a cat, I was curious as to why JLA would choose to make Castile a cat and started researching for tonight's episode. But the more I learned about cats, the more I figured out that Cass, in his Atlantean form, already actually has tons of cat-like traits and might just be the best house cat one could ever dream of. So
Probably better than mine, who climbs up my damn Alice tree.
yeah, you were
Castile can climb up my Alice tree.
He's always invited to my Alice tree.
So my info about cats, because that's where I'm going tonight, came from two websites, Cat Club USA
USA
and Pedisure.com.
Oh.
So, and so just so you guys know how deep and definitely not shallow my deep dive is this week, we're talking about why Castile would be a good house cat.
I want him to curl up in my lap.
So the first way that we see Castile as a cat is in the way that he instinctively marks his territories. Many cats will rub on their owners as their way of greeting to transfer some of the smell from their glands, allowing them to stake their property correctly. In this series, we see Castile constantly touching Poppy, playing with her hair, rubbing her hips, and Karen even comments at one point that Poppy, quote-unquote, smells of Cass. You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
In book 2. Okay, so number 2, Cass has a hunting instinct. This behavior is probably the most obvious of all of the instinctual behaviors of cats, and as well as our beloved Castile. So we know that Cass has spent years getting close to the maiden undetected, and we even see him prowling and following her through Wisher's Grove earlier in the book. Cass even mimics the hunting behaviors of a cat in the way that he likes to chase, ambush, roll around, and bite at Poppy. He's like our playful little kitten. Number 3. Cats are instinctively attracted to small spaces, and that's where the "if it fits, I sits" meme comes from. So cats in the wild like to seek shelter where they feel safe and are protected from predators. And in Cass's case, he wants to protect Poppy. So when a cat can squeeze into a small space, it knows that all of its sides are covered and it can remain hidden. And that definitely plays into the one horse, one bed trope that I really love in this
that one
series.
too.
He loves the closeness. Number 4, cats have a reputation for sleeping long hours and then waking with tons of energy. So cats may zoom around the house during all hours of the night, attacking and playing just like Cass does. He is like a kitten. He's not like a puppy. He is a kitten. So I'm not a cat person, and I'm really not even a pet person, but can someone give me a pet Castile? I'll take one of him.
I will tell you from firsthand experience, because we have a 12-week-old kitten at home right now. It is not fun at midnight to have a cat running around in zoomies.
Would it be fun if Cass was up running around in zoomies?
I mean, maybe, but
He was
I just would
zoomies.
In your Zuma Zoom.
I'll tell you where you can zoom, buddy. I just like the curling up and cuddling part.
Yeah, he's very much like a little kitten. He's full of energy. He'll claw your face out if you don't do what he wants. And he'll hunt you down and
It
kill
really
you.
is kind of uncanny.
It is. So I do really like that she made him shift into a cat. And that does go into one of my questions is they say in the book that Kieran says, well, it makes sense that you would shift into a cat because Aries is her dad and he shifts into a cat. But Poppy could also possibly shift into a wolf. So why isn't Castile shifting into a wolf? That's a question that I have for the series overall.
They kind of talk about it. You kind of have to wonder if...
But they don't know, though, that Nyktos can shift into a wolf, do they?
Yeah, they do. That's part of their lore. When they're at that museum in book 3, A Crown of Gilded Bones, I think, and she's asking why Nyktos' face isn't there, and they talk about the wolves. Like, sometimes it's the wolf that represents the Wolven, and sometimes it's the wolf that represents Nyktos' chosen form, or something like that.
Okay.
That was really well put that I just said all those things, and super convincing.
Maybe he's siphoning the energy and ether from Poppy, and because she's got the cat in her
But that's what I'm
line.
saying. She would have the wolf in her, too.
Well, that's true.
So why
Because
is
she
he...
descends,
And so my question would be is he going to have wolf capabilities, too? Which shifter form will
That would
she
be
take
cool.
on? Because she's a primal, does she get to choose her form? that
She
shifts
is the
into?
primal of life and death.
Right.
So
Ooh,
technically...
that would be.
But I feel like
Yeah.
in A Light in the Flame, or even that bonus chapter from Shadow and the Ember, I feel like Nyktos doesn't get to pick what he shifts into. It's just the wolf.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see which
Yeah.
one she is and how excited she is about it. I can't wait.
She'll just be excited that it's not a brat.
Well, it could be if she wants it to be.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Mindy?
Well, my favorite moment actually has a little bit to do with Touch Her and Die as well, but in a totally different way. I love that when Kieran kind of instinctually starts to go after Poppy when she stabs Cass, and then Cass has to physically stop him before he does. And then Cass bares his teeth, his fangs actually, and says, "She is mine." Ooh, swoon. Mine. Touch her and die, Kieran. Touch her and die. I just love that.
That's actually really funny because that leads right into my least favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I really did not like that part, right? Not because I thought it was bad or anything like that, but I didn't like the way it made me feel negatively. Right before Cass hunts Poppy down in the snow right after that, after getting stabbed in the heart, and he is making a comparison to being with Shay the last time before she dies.
Yeah.
And so I have come to the conclusion that what I think that means, all of the stuff about Shay that we talked about in episode 1 and all that, the truth about Shay, I think what actually happened is that Shay never betrayed Castile. I think that whole part is made up. And I think that he was so like gone and hungry and tortured and pissed that when he realized that Shay had betrayed his brother and gotten his brother like traded for him, I think he just straight up bit her and until she died.
That's kind of what I think too.
Yeah, I think he kept his teeth
That makes
his
so
fangs
much
in.
sense.
That's my least favorite moment too, because he does start to go mad and he's literally tracking Poppy, and he keeps saying that it reminds him when he was tracking Shay. So we talked about this last week, but I'm super nervous about it because I don't want Poppy to have any more betrayal in her life or have any more lies headed her way because, quite frankly, she's been through enough.
She's had enough, yeah.
Especially from Castile.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand not wanting to tell your future wife that you accidentally killed your previous future wife, but at the same time, don't lie to her and make her feel bad for you.
And he's already done that, and he knows how that ends. You know, like
Maybe she'll stab him in the heart again. That'll be fun.
don't miss this time. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, she didn't miss last time.
Wouldn't
Well,
that
she
just
nicked it
wouldn't
last
that
time.
just make it hurt her? Like, wouldn't she hurt? I mean, I know it wouldn't really hurt him because of being connected, but wouldn't it?
I don't think you feel the same intense pain, though.
Yeah.
I think you feel like a twinge because when he's
Something.
locked up for 50 years, Kieran isn't like immobile, but he's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he.
Well, and even
at
when
least
Kieran got
slapped.
stabbed, it was just like a uncomfortable.
like a fleeting, like a phantom pain
Yeah.
almost. Yeah. What was your least favorite moment?
Oh, mine was totally different. And it's also sort of I guess a little bit of a revelation, but it absolutely never occurred to me that the Ascended may have fed from Poppy without her knowledge. I never went there. And that just makes me feel all kinds of icky. It's just so fucking violating. And so when Cass points that out, it just kind of made me angry.
Yeah. I wonder if that actually ever happened, though.
I don't know how they would have been able to stop themselves.
Right. Well, because part of why he thinks that might have happened is that's how they would know she was Atlantean or whatever, or if they knew that she was. But we still don't know, and we may never find out how many people knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think that it just literally never crossed my mind. I just assumed they just knew everything and they didn't, or whatever. But it never crossed my mind that could have even been something that they could have done, and they would have. I mean, that's how awful they were.
They also don't have to bite her on the neck. You know what I mean? So, like, when he was caning her, she could have had bite marks on her back. They don't have to necessarily tap a vein to
if
get
she
to her
had
blood.
bite marks, though, don't you think Tawny and Victor would have been like, fuck that?
Not if they were little bites, like near the cuts or something, or they could have just licked the blood from the cuts.
True. They could have just made her bleed and then
licked it up.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't know how they could have stopped themselves from licking it. So maybe that's why they would hit her until she was unconscious.
Ugh.
Well, and a lot of times she said that he didn't hit her hard enough to even break her skin. And I bet that he did that on purpose so that it wouldn't be like a temptation for himself.
Yeah. Well,
this is too big of a bummer. Let's move on. Let's talk about our biggest revelations, because I picked a silly one for my biggest revelation.
Why don't you bring the room back up?
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to pick, Castile changing into a cave cat and all of chapter 12 or present 12. But instead, for my biggest revelation, I chose Delano's last name. We didn't know.
I didn't catch that we got his last name.
We got his last name in one of these New Haven chapters, and it's Amicu. Yeah. Amicu. I don't know if that's how you say it. Amicu.
Well, I'm sure we will see it written several different ways and pronounced several different ways over the next couple of books.
Let's check the next pronunciation guide.
The word for friend in French is ami.
Oh, that's cute.
So that's kind of sweet.
Thanks, word nerd.
See, so just more evidence that he is not going to betray Poppy or Castile.
My biggest revelation does bring down the room just a little bit again, but also redeems Castile. This section of the book is not a super redeeming part and not a happy part of this series.
Except for
it's really sex. Okay, so essentially I've been waiting this entire book to see Hawk's point of view when he goes into the barn once Phillips has figured out that he's dealing with dissenters. I've always wondered why Hawk was being such a complete jackass in this scene, and we talk about that at length in last season's episode. So as we know, on the way to the barn, Elijah really calls Castile out for his bullshit and tells him that he knows that Cass has feelings for Poppy. He also tells Cass that he needs to make sure no one knows, or the group could retaliate, because they've been planning this moment for years, right? Yeah. People have died. They've given up some of their freedoms for this. And I really enjoyed having the opportunity to learn more about Elijah's character in this scene, the scene with Orion, and then when he helps Cass kill the dissenters who hurt Poppy. And so ultimately that also makes Elijah my MVP for this episode.
Ooh.
I really, really enjoyed getting to know him in this book.
Nice. I like Elijah a lot too.
I did too.
Did you feel like that POV redeemed any part of being so douchey in the barn for you?
It did in a lot of ways, because Elijah told him, he's like, you better act like this doesn't bother you, that they've got her, because people are going to turn on you if you don't, and they're going to wonder what the fuck's going on. And he's right.
Even during it too, he wants to smile when Poppy says something to Jericho,
but it comes off as cocky.
But he also stops himself too before it gets too reactionary, so because he's like, because ultimately that would come back bad on Poppy too, because then they'd all just attack her.
He talks about how he continues to shut himself down, and the only way he can do that is by being an arrogant prick.
Yeah. Well, I also appreciated, he says something about, I'm trying to direct her anger to me because I can control myself, right, and not lash out at her and all of these other people, anybody else.
If she laid a hand on anybody else, she'd have been dead.
I still enjoy the fact that they all let her kind of kick Cass.
I know.
Because
I liked that,
I think they're all like, well, dude, you kind of deserve it. And you fucked her. So what were you thinking? Because when they were like, well, this is why you don't mix business with pleasure. And Elijah goes, oh, that's what is happening here? And then he's like, he goes, in that case, I've got my, what's he say? My bet on the maiden.
Yeah, I put my money on her.
Well, also too, they've already been told not to touch her. Right. So they're probably afraid that they will do something rash and he'll be pissed off.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be.
Did you have any revelations, Ben?
I did. Actually, that was one of mine, but I didn't ultimately go with that one. That was one of my questions last week was why did he do that? But there were a couple of small ones. I didn't realize the first time they had sex. Like, I knew he was probably considering feeding from Poppy, but I didn't realize just how close he actually came to doing it twice. Like, he had to stop himself twice from...
And the thing is he would have known she was Atlantean, and then he would have been like, okay,
we would have saved so many chapters.
Just stop real quick. I got to tell you something. I fucked up, but it's going to be okay, and here's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was trying to be good. So that was one kind of revelation I had. And then this one actually
he was good. All right.
He was good. This one I thought was kind of sweet and just made everything come full circle. Like, I didn't put it together when Cass under the willow had asked Poppy to stab him if he ever did something she didn't like. Then he did this. She got pissed off and she stabbed him. So I never put it together. That all came full circle. Yeah. And he mentioned that. And I was like, oh, that was an aha moment for me.
I did tell her to stab me. And here we are.
She did.
Yeah. I had never made that connection before either. I thought that was really clever.
Well, and one thing, Min, because you said this a second ago where you're like, oh, she nicked his heart. He actually goes into more detail and says she got him really fucking good.
Yeah, that is right. He tells
Kieran because Kieran is so pissed off. He's about to go
I did forget about that part.
Poppy down. So she actually got him really, really good.
She did. Go Poppy.
So speaking of stabbing, that does lead into my favorite spicy scene in this section. So I really love it when
stabbing, wink, wink,
wink, wink, cock stabbing. Oh. So I really love it whenever Cass and Poppy do it in the snow. And
I knew that was going to be your favorite.
and here
we only have like two choices,
right? So let me tell you why though. Not only has Castile at this point figured out a way to save Poppy because he knows she's Atlantean, because for chapters in this book he's been going like, what am I going to do? I got to get her out of this. How can we not make this trade? She deserves freedom. And he has an epiphany where as soon as he bites her, he's like, holy fuck, I just figured it out. Mm-hmm. Right. But even better is that Poppy figures out that sex on top is awesome. And it's really the icing on the cake in her sexual liberation. So you get yours, Poppy. Go get it, girl.
Starts off as angry and it's like, oh,
she's like, I'm hopping right up off of this. And then she's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Nope, this is great.
Well, I did not pick that particular scene. I picked the other one for my favorite spicy scene.
Which is when they do it the first time?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The more romantic, intimate,
this is pretty intimate.
But I did do a deep dive on the biology of angry sex in honor of the snow sex scene. So
are you going to tell us why makeup sex is so good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So next time I'm mad at Brian, I'll be like, just you wait. It's going to be great.
I mean, pretty much, yes. That's basically it. So first of all, angry sex can be the same thing as makeup sex. Sometimes it's not makeup. Sometimes it's just angry.
Anger bang.
Yeah, which is okay. Can be okay.
I love the word bang.
I do. I like saying that.
Did you ever see on How I Met Your Mother? You never watched it, right, Mindy?
No, I did.
No. Did you watch it? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. But there's that part where they go, a bang, bang, a bangity bang, a bang, bang, bangity bang.
I only sort of remember that.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So here's how angry sex is different from, quote, regular sex, right? So angry sex is fueled by... Any guesses?
Anger.
Yeah. Anger / intense emotions and an adrenaline rush. So being fueled by intense emotions and or having that adrenaline rush makes it easier for you to step outside of your comfort zone, which makes you more likely to cross previously drawn boundary lines, basically. Not necessarily in like an unhealthy creep way, but just a new
uninhibited type
yes,
of way.
like a new experience kind of way.
You know what?
Right?
I've been wanting to choke you anyway. Maybe we'll do
it. And now I've got the confidence to do it.
Remember how mad I made you? Why don't you choke it out of me?
Yeah, right. That's really funny. Sometimes those crossing boundaries or comfort zone just means having different sex than you're used to, right? Doing different things, which ultimately is just a departure from the norm, which is very liberating and can be very exciting. The why behind angry sex is basically it's really just a physical way to resolve tension between two people. So the way that I'm talking about all of this is just kind of with the assumption that we're talking about a couple, but it doesn't have to be a couple. It can just be two people, right? It can be people that are not.
How many books do we love it though, where it's enemies to lovers and they're
Right.
still not together and they totally do it,
Right.
yes.
And it's so good,
Right. So angry sex is a physical way to resolve tension. It's an outlet, or it can be an outlet to express aggression or to reconnect after a fight. So angry sex can be after you have already come to a resolution and you're reconnecting. I
We're
know.
over here giggling like 12-year-old boys.
There wasn't a better way to say that.
I prefer to come to a resolution during
Right.
angry sex.
But
too.
it can also be while you're still in the middle of whatever the conflict is, and that there's no actual like solution that's happening. It's just a way to
better get a solution by the end of it.
well, maybe. Sometimes it's used, angry sex is used as avoidance, avoiding like an awkward conversation or avoiding what you know is going to be a difficult conversation or trying to escape painful emotions that you're just wanting to be in denial that are there and just don't want to deal with whatever the problem or conflict is. Anger basically works as an aphrodisiac by increasing your blood flow, increasing your heart rate, increasing your blood pressure, and increasing testosterone, which is directly linked to your sexual arousal. So being angry increases your testosterone, which can increase your
I
sex
gotta say
drive.
it though, because you're talking about people being able to do it like while they're still really angry. And I have told my husband before, I'm like, when I'm pissed, my vagina is like Estelle Getty's. It is like shut up tight and looks all mean, and it is not ready to go.
No, I'm with you though too. Like that's the last
If
thing
I'm
I want to
super
do.
tense, you're not going to put something up in there.
Well, and if I'm pissed off, get away from me. Like,
Well, then in that situation, your anger is not acting as an aphrodisiac, right? Which this article talked a little bit about. Like, just because you're angry doesn't automatically mean that you're
you're
going
gonna
to be
get
turned
horny,
on.
yeah.
Right. But it can, because a lot of times or I guess I'm going to say sometimes, anger makes you, I've read it kind of like subconsciously makes you want to get closer to the object of your anger. And one way that can happen is through sex. So
You know what though, Mindy, you and I are like deeply loyal, especially when it comes to like our feelings. So I think it depends too on your personality
Oh,
trait,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you've like hurt my feelings, I don't really want to be around you for a little bit. And
Yeah.
some people, I think, that would be like, "Oh, you hurt my feelings, I'm going to fuck it out of you." But like, I don't operate like that.
I'll show you like,
My vagina.
Yeah, right. So there can actually be some benefits from angry sex as long as you do it in the right way. So benefits can be that it does actually, or it can diffuse the tension from whatever the conflict is. It can kind of break down a little bit of barriers, break down some of those walls, and make it easier to communicate with each other afterwards in that way of reconnecting with each other. And, you know, because it's sex, there is a surge. Well, there should be a surge of happy hormones. Oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. Oxytocin, in particular, is linked to psychological stability and improved communication between partners. Which I thought was, I did not know. That was new information.
If
for
I
me.
have angry makeup sex and I don't get off and I'm still tense at the end of it, you better run.
Right, that there's going to be a major issue.
I'm gonna be even
bigger
more mad.
problem,
Yes,
right?
right, yeah.
Yeah. So theoretically, you have sex, you should have an orgasm.
One
Right?
would hope.
Right. And then the dopamine makes you better able to communicate with each other because it provides more psychological stability, which, I mean, okay, that's fine. In other words, angry sex may help you feel more connected and reestablish closeness after an issue has created some distance, which is good for a relationship.
That's
right?
true.
Some important reminders. You must communicate with your partner if you are wanting to engage in angry sex so that they are on the same page. Because we all know sometimes one partner can be angry about something and the other partner is like, no.
Really? It's typically not
It's the guy.
woman. Yeah.
Especially,
You're mad? Why are you mad about
well,
that?
especially if you're going to be a little more uninhibited with
Right.
things that you try, you need to make sure that your partner's on board for that,
Right.
right? You also need to make sure, in the same vein, that you have consent from your partner to try those new and different things that you might feel uninhibited to try, right? Choking. When there are only a couple of times really to not engage in angry sex, and basically it's just if you are trying to use sex as the conflict resolution in and of itself, that is not a healthy way to try to resolve conflict. It can be a healthy way to resolve or lessen tension and kind of open up communication again, but it's not going to make the problem go away, right? So don't do it and then be confused when your partner is still upset afterwards, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a codependency issue too. A lot of couples will, or like if
sex.
Well,
as
they
a-
don't feel tense anymore, so they're like, well, I guess we can just talk about
So
it
this
next
is
time.
fine.
well,
Yeah.
and that's their coping mechanism.
Well, and it's also this is kind of the same thing, but not really. The only other thing it said about not having angry sex is if that is the communication, right? Like you still have to talk to each other about whatever the problem is. You can't just
It's not
have
body
sex.
language, it's actual
Yes,
talking.
you can't just have sex and be like, yes, we communicated.
So I will say, when they have snow sex, like they, even after they're done, she's like, well, aren't you mad at me for running away? And he goes,
yeah.
yeah. And
They
he goes, "Aren't you
definitely
still
hash
mad at
things
me?
out, yeah.
Aren't you still mad at me?" And she goes, well, yeah. And he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to pick you up and carry you because you're cold.
I did like thinking about the snow sex scene in terms of that article about angry sex, because like you say, they did communicate afterwards, and Poppy also was uninhibited to try some new things.
Well, it sounds like, though, that you really like the snow sex. So why did you pick the other scene as your favorite?
because I like it better.
Because you like the sweetness of it.
I like the sweetness of it.
I will
Yeah.
say I did almost pick it, and here's why. I really liked that he cleaned her up afterwards.
I know.
I think
I
that's
appreciate
really sweet. Don't throw a towel at your partner's face and walk out of the room, for the record.
I like
Or a t-shirt.
Yeah.
that's
Clean
funny.
your ass up.
I like
Unless it's like that soft, tri-blend jersey. Then you can throw it at me and walk out. 'cause that feels good.
I like how attentive he is for her in general in that scene. Like I'm not gonna what was it, the red pearl scene where he's like, I'm not going to tell her who I am because I don't want her to think that she's being punished
Right.
for seeking this sexual pleasure or whatever. And I just like that general attitude that he has about understanding what her life has been like and how important different things are, and making sure that she can have these experiences and not have that be kind of tainted by anything else.
Right.
I actually picked this scene as well, and it was a tough choice for me. I went back and forth. But I love in this how Cass worships her and her body.
I know.
He says Poppy had to be a goddess, and little did he know,
Yeah.
He also admits that he had never been anyone's first, but that he wanted it to be perfect for her since it was her first time. I just think that's just really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I get golden retriever vibes from Castile, but
Right.
in this scene, I feel like he's got a little bit of that going on. He's very gentle with her, at least at first. And then he also wanted to make sure everything was consensual.
Yes.
I just feel like he just showed a softer, sweeter side of Cass.
Yeah.
Which you don't see very often.
The softer
Side of Cass.
I will say, earlier I said that Elijah was my section MVP, but maybe it was Cass. Maybe it was Cass's dick. That's my I'm switching my section MVP from Elijah to Cass's dick.
I picked Castile as my MVP.
I did too.
Cass's dick is my MVP.
I wrote Cave Cat Cass as my MVP.
I almost put that,
Yeah.
but then as I was really thinking about it, Elijah was just so unexpected. Well, shit,
Yeah.
so was the cave cat. But I felt like I couldn't say cave cat for every single one of my answers. So yeah, what'd you like about the cave cat?
all of it. I mean, I don't really know how else to say that. I really enjoyed this book in general. It was a little too much rehashing stuff we already knew. I wish that there had been more new information, but then that very last chapter,
We got a lot of
It
new
was
information.
like,
we got more
whoa.
information overall though than I was expecting.
No, we did get a
'Cause,
ton.
even earlier in the book when there's the dissenters meeting and then Orion comes and we find out why Castile has to leave the room after they've had sex.
Yeah.
I was expecting much less, but if people don't want to read it because it's a retelling, you might be a little disappointed, but if you don't read it, you're going to be fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I wanted there to be more present chapters.
Right, yeah,
when
yeah.
they
Right.
stopped basically calling it the Hawk retelling and started marketing it as the next Blood and Ash book, that made me expect more
Right.
present chapters. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
But it was still good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a 4 or 5-star read for me,
Yeah.
in general. But that last chapter just was really great. I loved it. It was my favorite part of the entire book. So
Well, I also chose Cass as my MVP, and I know I chose him last week too. But I mean, motherfucker turned into a cave cat. What?
He is basically the main character of this book. So.
I like how we both called him a motherfucking cave cat. I did earlier in the episode because that's what it is. He's not a cave cat. He is a motherfucking cave cat. He
is. And so I just thought that was so intriguing that I actually did a deep dive on cat shape shifting.
Ooh.
And there is an actual word for it. So I know Deb has. I want to say when we did our ACOTAR, you did a lycanthropy, or maybe it was early on in From Blood and Ash.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really early in From Blood and Ash, but it was very much based off of like the lore behind how it happened and everything.
Right.
So yeah.
So this cat shape shifting is called Ailuranthropy, which is really hard to say. I had to like spell it out phonetically. Ailuranthropy.
Okay.
And it's from the Greek
like
word.
Like a lore, like a cat.
Kind of, yeah. It comes from the Greek word ailuros, meaning cat, and anthropos, meaning human. And sometimes they're called, I shit you not, werecats. Which reminds me
that of Supernatural.
I know. Because werepires.
Every episode we talk about Supernatural.
I know, right? It all goes back to
if
Supernatural.
If you have not watched it, just fucking watch it, Christ.
We can just always. It's like there's a GIF for everything, a Supernatural one for everything.
100%.
It all goes back there. So depending on the folklore or story, these werecats can really be any species, from a domestic cat to a tiger or a leopard, or even like a totally made up feline, like if you're creating your own world. And in European folklore, I'm going to have trouble saying that word, werecats fall into the general category of witches, actually. And they typically...
Like familiars almost?
Kind of, but it's a little different. They do typically transform into domestic cats, but some even transform into, quote, giant domestic cats, which they say are like panthers, basically.
I was going to say like a fat cat.
I know. I'm like, what are we talking here? Garfield?
I was thinking Clifford, the big red dog, like a super giant.
Okay, so who's writing the book that Clifford the Big Red Dog is actually a witch? People will be rolling over in their Southern Baptist graves.
They would. Emily Elizabeth and her familiar.
Oh my God, I'm writing it. Coming soon.
There are also some African legends that tell of were-leopards, which are usually leopard deities pretending to be human. And then when they mate with a human, they grow up to be shapeshifters. And then
So the cat fucks the human?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, or I don't know if
Do they shift into a human before
I don't know. That I don't know.
I'm going to say yes.
I would say like,
just
yeah.
for my own
Well, it also
imagination.
said that they can grow up to be shapeshifters. They don't always. So I would assume it would be a human form, and
Maybe they have to get real angry,
maybe
like Cass did.
maybe they sprout ears in the middle of it, and I don't know.
Like, something's wrong with your ears.
There's also another African folktale about the Nunda, and that is a massive cat that stalks villages at night, that is more ferocious than a lion and more agile than a leopard, which is terrifying. So these Nunda tend to stay human during the day and then shift into a werecat at night, and then like prowl and like
Eat people.
attack villages. Yeah. That's a little terrifying.
I hate it when that happens.
I do too.
know. It's
Chinese
like
legends.
Night bitch. That night
Oh,
bitch.
yeah, it's true. Chinese legends describe were tigers. I swear they're putting were in front of every cat you can imagine.
It's a cop-out term, kind of.
So these were tigers are actually victims of a hereditary curse or a vindictive ghost. And then on
Those are two very different things.
Right. I know,
What
right?
you're laughing about too. Like, well, it could be
not-
a
Could be
curse,
this and it could be that.
could be a curse, or it could just be a ghost.
Paper.
No, this is
A ghost.
This is the creepy part about it. So on the flip side, the ghosts of people who were killed by tigers. Okay, so you got killed by a tiger and you come back as an angry spirit. They're called Chang, which are malevolent spirits who devote all their energy to making sure that tigers kill more humans.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's not nice.
I know,
No.
dang.
You would think it would be the opposite if you were killed by a tiger.
I thought that too, but no.
Like you would want to try to help other people not
But
suffer.
we know what
but
happens again due to supernatural to an
That's
angry
true.
spirit.
That's
Yeah.
true. They kind of lose it.
They
a
kind of
little bit.
lose their shit. So, and of course, because we are America, our version is the were jaguar, but it's really just
Do you mean the word
were
jaguar?
jaguar, jaguar, but it was really just priests and shamans wearing a jaguar skin and becoming so it's not like really like even in folklore
they were doing the gods work is what you're telling us?
Like they were putting on skins and pretending they were jaguars to like.
Isn't that in Outlander where when they moved to the Americas that they run into one of the Native American tribes where they had banished somebody and he like skinned a bear and wore the bear.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about? And like, he wore it and came back and
they
freaked
called
him
Jamie
out.
the bear killer.
Yes.
Oh,
see, and it reminded me
that's where they got that. Like that's a real legit. Huh.
That reminded me of The Village too.
That's what I was thinking of when you said that. What a great movie.
That M. Night
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
So finally, though, there are people who believe that this isn't just folklore necessarily. So number one, the Catholic Witch Hunting Manual. Let me say that again. A Catholic Witch Hunting Manual called the Malleus Maleficarum, which
Can
sounds
you get
like
this off Amazon?
Well, it
sounds like that other supernatural episode.
I was gonna say it sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
But isn't there a supernatural episode called that?
Probably.
Maybe.
I think there is.
Well, in that book or manual, it says that witches can turn into cats, but they are just illusions created by demons. So yeah,
that makes me.
So are you a witch or a demon? Which one is it?
Or
Can't
a cat?
be both.
I mean, it's too many options.
It is.
How do they keep it all straight?
I don't know.
Who they're hunting and who needs to get executed.
Well, they don't. They're just killing women with opinions.
It's an illusion from a demon.
Right, it must be. She said, oh my God. The fact that you just made a Wayne's World reference. I am so turned on by you right now.
You're welcome.
Oh, I wish it was snowing, Whitney. My God.
You'd sink your fangs right in.
That's not even the craziest one, actually.
Of course
so
not.
this
Wait,
is the
can
last
I just
one.
ask really quick that Catholic witch hunting?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this from like 1982 or
I don't
from like
know.
1600s?
I'm going to see if I can find it on Amazon.
I'm gonna guess.
I'm gonna hope.
I'm
that
gonna
it's
guess
from,
it's more like from the like witch hunt era.
Yeah, and not like
not current.
not the current, the modern times.
I mean, who knows?
hope.
Maybe we're
My
in
goodness.
the 850,000th edition.
Hold on, I can tell you because I've pulled it up on Amazon.
Oh Lord.
There is a paperback, Malleus Maleficarium, written by Heinrich Kramer. Okay, and it came out in. Let's see if we can get a publication date here. It came out. Oh, this one was published in 2009.
Oh,
so
it has to be like a late
so
edition.
The 27th
Just so you
edition or
know,
something.
it's ranked 1,413th in all books. 897th in demonology and Satanism, 3,000th in occultism, but also 3,000th in tourist destinations. It gets 4.3 stars on Amazon, you all. Okay, so I will, before we post our show notes, see if I can find an original.
That would be hilarious. Yeah. So, like I said, now maybe that is the weirdest one, but there's also a New Age author named John Perkins, and he declared that anyone can shapeshift into, this is a quote, jaguars, bushes, or any other form.
Okay, like
those are the two examples.
Jaguars or bushes?
Bushes
like
or any other form.
greenery bushes or like pubes.
Well, it says or any other form.
I definitely went there.
One.
I definitely went there. But he says you can do that simply by using your mental power. So you can just sit there and think of yourself as a jaguar, and you will become a jaguar.
That explains a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Good times.
So I'm going to use...
I'm adding both of those books to my...
I'm going to use all of my mental power to be alone and reading. Just like all the time.
Right? Unfortunately, in my house, it's hard to do.
Can I use my mental power to become the book that JLA has not written yet in this series? Because I'm kind of into that.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe she has. Well, I guess she probably hasn't. She's probably working on it. Maybe even not. She's got too many projects.
She does.
I don't know how she keeps it straight.
I do not know how she keeps it straight.
People turning into whatever makes me think of a part of TikTok that I like stumbled upon this week that I was like, what did I do to get here? But apparently there's a whole side of TikTok of people who, some of them are cosplaying and it's like for fun, and some of them are like legitimately believing that they are actual vampires. Do you guys know
that's
this?
like a whole thing. You know, when Anne Rice was alive, she had a vampire ball every year pre-COVID, and she would say that people would come that thought they were like legit vampires, and she would say like, I personally have only written about fictional vampires. I don't know if, and like she's pretty much like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that Renfield syndrome.
There's
true.
yeah, that's true. There's a lady on there. I won't say her handle, but there's a lady on there who's like, I am a hybrid, part woman, part vampire. And I was
What makes you part vampire?
Well, that's a great question. So like she's
I feel like it's an all or nothing type of thing.
It's real weird. It's a lot.
She has
it's
Renfield syndrome, and
it's
the part
hole.
that she's not vampire is the immortality. I'm assuming.
Here's the thing.
She bought a mask off of Amazon that you can like look it up. It's in like a vampire costume masquerade thing, and she put this mask on and was like, I got this from the elders of whatever, and this means that I am accepted as an elder. And then it is so
Call me
bizarre.
jaded, but like
it's
to
bizarre.
me, and again, I'm not like, you do you do whatever you want to do. If you want to go on TikTok and say you're a vampire, and maybe she actually is, but to me, if you're gonna do that, it's about attention.
Well,
100.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like,
Yes.
So
I just can't
Speaking
even.
of attention, I did find the first edition of Malleus Maleficarum. So it was first written in 1486.
Well, that
so the
sounds- Yeah,
that's about-
2009 edition is just,
like the
reprint.
80,000th.
But it was still being reprinted
Right.
in
Yeah.
2009.
Exactly.
That's kind of
Crazy.
insane
Right.
to me.
And it's 800th in occultism and Satanism.
well, that's what I was gonna
books.
say. I guess occultists are. I mean, it's sort of like their.
like a textbook
Yeah.
study kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
true. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to buy one. So when I come into the podcast and I've changed into a, what is it that they change into?
A bush.
I'm just going to be a cat. A bush. No, that's the new age guy. No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to be a witch
For
that
the
turns into a
record,
cat.
we're not making fun of anyone's beliefs, but I
No.
don't believe you can change into a bush with your
Right. Yeah. No.
I'm
I
just
don't-
going to say that.
Our
out loud.
brains are powerful, but I don't think they're
Yeah.
that powerful. But call me a skeptic, I guess. So thank you for all of that, Mindy. I'm
I
going to
love
be
that.
thinking
Thank
about
you so
Fun. It was a very fun.
cats and
I like how I'm
all
like,
that.
can Castile be my house cat? And you're like, well, let me lay down this shit. for you.
And
I
then I'm
still
like,
want Cass as a house
I'm gonna
cat.
talk about sex. So let's talk about favorite secondary characters. Who was your all's favorite?
So mine was again Emil. I just really loved him in this book. So not only does he write a letter to Cass in code to warn him about Alistair,
Yeah, that is
but he
cool.
also ends up being the comedic relief at the end of the book when Castile is in his cat form.
I really enjoyed that a lot.
I absolutely love that Castile keeps calling him the meat.
Yeah.
In the Revenant and Cave Cat scene, it was just so intense, but the use of that animalistic instinct
Yeah.
in JLA's writing ended up showing us Castile's fiercely protective, smartass character, even in creature form.
Yeah, I
so
really liked that.
I loved how Emil continued to push the plot forward. He continues to serve his prince, but then also almost gets fucking eaten. And it's so funny.
I really enjoyed that too. And I also liked, because we still have this lingering question of like, is Poppy going to remember who she is
Yeah.
and whatever. And, you know, it's obvious that in those moments, Castile did not know who he was, did not know who Karen was, did not, right?
Right.
However, the power of their joining was something that he recognized.
and he knew that they were okay
Right.
to
That
do
goes,
that.
So-
that goes into one of my favorite quotes, which I'll talk about in a
Well,
minute.
I feel like that's going to be the same for Poppy, right? Like even if she wakes up and doesn't remember all of them, the power
She's
of
going to know
their
there's something there.
Yeah, like she's going to know these people, these two, they're mine. They are me.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank
They're
goodness it
important,
was
you know?
Kieran that came in, though, because Kieran
Yeah.
knew what it was like to shift the first time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
knew how to bring Cass back to who he was.
Yeah.
But I also love that they can speak telepathically
Mm-hmm.
whenever whenever Cass is in
Was-
cave cat form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they can figure out how to do that not in cave cat form.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because that would be fun for the three
Again,
of them.
I want to point out that if the show on Hulu gets made, and if we get this far in the show, please don't make it like Twilight, for the love of God.
I just rewatched Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Okay, I
I
watched Part 1 and Part 2 on vacation a few weeks ago with my daughter when she was sick.
I mean, except for the weird demon baby. It's not horrible.
And the wolves talking.
Well, the wolves talking.
I mean, she was essentially kind of like a changeling type of thing.
She was a demon
she
baby.
Is a demon baby.
Yeah.
They even call her a demon at one point.
That's
so
true.
who was yours, man?
My favorite secondary character was Elijah. I know he was your MVP, but I just love how he messes with Delano, calls him a marshmallow, and is like, he's also like a total lush. He was like, does today end in Y? Whenever somebody asked him if he wanted a refill on his drink, and I'm like, oh, that I can relate.
Reminds me of my good friend Deborah.
No, I was like, I can relate. And then when he says, and you brought this up in your recap, damn, my little marshmallow is getting kind of crispy. He's just so funny. He was really good,
really
comic relief.
I loved him.
I like him a lot.
Did you have a secondary favorite character?
Of course I did.
Who was it?
Delano.
Well, of course it was.
It was Delano. I loved him. I just loved him. And I liked the banter with Elijah and Castile. And I feel like this book showed Delano in a new facet of his personality that we haven't really gotten to see. I feel like in the Poppy POV books, Delano is kind of more like strong, silent, like I'm here, but he doesn't show a ton of personality. He's very like steady and strong and loyal, but doesn't really show a ton of like the funny side of him like we got to see in this book. And I really appreciated that. And I really liked the acknowledgement in this section of Poppy saved me and she did not have to. And like, I owe her forever now. I feel like he basically was like, I'm just going to be her bonded woven now because I owe her like a life debt. That's kind of how I took it. And I I vindication.
That's how I took it too.
Vindication.
I did question a little bit that he was, and maybe he wasn't, and Cass did have to like make him go, but I questioned that he was willing to leave Poppy and go wherever he sent them. He sent him with
in the present, or
in the present one. It's right before the Revenant comes, and he says he sent. I guess was it Kieran he sent off too?
He said Kieran went to get something,
and then he sent Delano with them.
He sent Delano to go see Perry,
which I get too, and probably he was excited to see him. I don't know. I just at that one I was like, ooh, I don't know that. I believe that Delano would have done that so willingly.
That's a really good point. I agree with that.
But he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, and somebody was supposed to be out in the hallway too.
It was Emil, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because he came in with,
which was
Kieran.
another thing that he said something about I just feel like he would have heard all that.
I know. I do too. But that goes back. I thought about that too. And I thought, because he was like, these walls are so thick, they won't hear anything. And I'm like, I mean, okay. But it goes back to what we talked a lot about before with the Tierman Castle. Like, why didn't Castile hear what had started happening in the Duke's office? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess she's established that their hearing's not that great, But, well, let's go into our favorite quote.
I have two.
Okay.
So my first one is when Cass is speaking to Poppy in present time and admits to when he fell in love with her. So it reads, I've never pretended when it came to my want of you. From the first time in the Red Pearl to this moment, what I felt was real. It was always real because I'd fallen in love with you long before I realized it. I was on the edge before we even left Macedonia, and I began falling when we arrived in New Haven. By the time we made it to Spess's End, I knew I was in love with you. So, like, legit, this quote made me cry when I read it.
It's really sweet.
It was because we know how hard it was for both of them to hide their feelings, and we know how hard it was for Hawk. Is he tried to figure out a way to save Poppy, but still save Malik. Right. He's going through, in this whole retelling, this internal dialogue of like, how can I get out of doing this to her? Because I have to save my brother. Yeah. Right. But then even in this book, Malik and Castile get into it, which we've actually not talked about at all.
Yeah.
But it's because it's so inconsequential to almost everything else that happens in this book. But Malik is pretty much telling him, like, I'll do anything for Millicent. Won't you do anything for Poppy? And the answer is yes. He would have picked Poppy ultimately over Malik a million times over, right?
And he still will.
Right.
Yeah.
So my second quote also deals with Castile, and it's "He smelled of us, mine." And this is the quote that it's when Kieran entered the room when Cat was in his cat form. So if you didn't like the joining and the War of Two Queens, then you definitely aren't really going to like what I'm about to say. All the books leading up to the War of Two Queens were building towards
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So if you didn't see it coming, no pun intended, you were really just fucking blind. My only complaint about the joining is that there weren't enough details, but at least we didn't get some sort of like so Lorcan did bullshit like Sarah J. Maas pulled in the Kingdom of Ash. But I love the idea that Kieran is also Castile's as much as Poppy is Castile's. And I really, quite frankly, hope we get some male-on-male action before the series is over, because it is so fucking hot. But I like the love that they have for each other. It makes it really, really special. So both of those quotes.
I think this book in particular is really setting up for a more detailed scene between the three of them, I think.
I mean, I hope so. I hope that JLA doesn't not write it because of how shitty people were about the joining. But you know what? Complainers are always louder than the people that loved it.
Well, and here's the thing. And if they complain about it, then maybe they won't read the next one in good riddance.
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
Like she needs to
They'll
write.
still read it, because if not, what the fuck are they going to complain about?
She needs to stay true to her characters.
Yeah.
And I think she will.
Well, and this book has the discussion of Castile talking about like all the different partners he's had, male and female, right? And it's got the scene where he comes in and watches Kieran have sex with another lady. So clearly that's probably not the first time he's done that, right? And then Jericho makes that douchey comment, like, if you're getting your dick wet, Kieran is too, right? So like they've slept with the same woman before, right? Like,
yeah, but I want them to hook up.
Well, but that's what I'm like.
I'm not so sure it hasn't already happened.
I think she's setting the stage in this book for a more detailed scene.
Yes, please.
In the next book. That's my opinion.
JLA, please send me a copy. I will proofread it for you. But I might need 5 to 10 minutes after I read it before I get back to you.
Did you have a favorite quote, Whit?
I did. It was one you mentioned earlier, actually, in the romantic, sweet sex scene, not the angry sex one.
The one you did a deep dive about? Yeah, I don't think you disliked it.
Exactly.
That was her way of saying that she liked both.
I did like both. Poppy had to be a goddess because, my gods, she was absolutely breathtaking. And I just think that's really sweet. Like, she's so self-conscious about her scars and what she looks like, and the fact that people don't normally see her, and she's not used to people seeing her face, much less her body, and the way that he just loves her and thinks that she is so pretty. It made me think, I saw this TikTok the other day of this girl, and she was like, the media and my childhood did not prepare me for the idea that one day I would meet a guy who like didn't want me to be skinny. Like he just like likes the way that I look, just me. And I was like, dang, if that's not true, right? And I feel like that's kind of this
I can't wait
moment
till
with
you see
Castile,
Barbie.
right? I would love to. My sister called me 2 nights ago. She was like, I just saw Barbie and I think you would love it.
I know.
And I was like, stop telling me about Barbie.
I feel like we all ditched you, which we didn't do.
Not.
No.
So I will go see it with you as soon
too.
as Annabelle's back in school.
I was going to say, the problem is I don't know when I'm going to be able to go see it for at least a week and a half.
Well, when you want to go see it, call us.
Unless Mindy's working.
I mean, if I'm working, I won't
going to be during the day.
So I'll go with you.
I can go. While they're at school, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I will be also at school. So I had a couple also that I loved, and 2 of them are really short, and one of them's a little longer. The 2 short ones are just funny. I just thought they just made me laugh. So I almost pointed this out when you were talking about Emil, when he walks in and he's asking like what went on here, and he says, okay, the soon to be dead one drawled, I'm going to say it one more time. What in the actual fuckity fuck?
I love that too.
I like that. I thought that was funny.
Made me laugh so hard. And then the other one was Cass, after he totally debauched Poppy in the first time they had sex. He said, I'm afraid I may have left an inappropriate show of my affections behind.
I know. I like that.
Ew.
It's like, what a tactful way to say.
But then he gave her the towel, and we liked that.
Yes.
But then the other one for me was just so heartbreaking, and it's when Castile says, and the anguish I felt had nothing to do with the pain of the still healing wound. It was for her, me, this situation, us, and the madness I was teetering on the verge of. the kind that erased all that mattered and left no winners. Like, I feel like that's the lowest of low points that he hit. You know, he's like, he'd been trying to think all this stuff, and then she stabs him, and then he's like, there's no way to win this. We're all losers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Just sad.
It's a sad moment. But then he runs out and has
And
sex.
then they anger bang.
Yeah. So then that released some tension for him.
Yes.
That's right.
It did, as we know now.
Right.
So I have a few more questions that I need resolved
I have a
as
lot.
the series
I do
goes
too.
on. So I want to know when we get to meet Jadis and what her role is going to be
Me too.
in the books. And I really want to know if Poppy is going to get to actually meet Serafina because she got to meet Niktos, right? But everyone's waking up.
Right.
So is Serafina going to come back to, I guess, the real world? I would call it
'Cause
the
she
human
can,
world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because she can.
I hadn't thought about
and
that,
is she
but
going
yeah.
to beat some ass with Poppy? That's really what I want to know.
Oh, that's
because
going to be amazing.
Colas has already fucked with her once, so I
Yeah.
don't really see her sitting on the sidelines.
No,
for this.
I think that would be shocking to me if that doesn't happen.
So
yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that, and we get her and Niktos's third book before.
the end of October, I think.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
Yeah, and then so that's going to be our reading party for November too. Our
Yay.
hotel
Yay.
reading party.
Yay.
What were your questions? Wait, you said you had a lot.
Those like when are we going to see Jadis and when are we going to actually meet her, right, as a kind of fully formed adult and not just a little kid? And when are we going to see more of Iris and Malek? And my big question, besides what the F is going on with the truth about Shay, is the connection between the Revenants and Colas. Because that Rev that comes in their room is singing that gross rhyme that Poppy's been hearing in her head
it
for
and watch
years.
it bleed.
Yes,
Yeah.
that we know in the War of Two Queens, she hears Colas's voice saying it to her in her head.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is this connection between Colas and these Revenants that some of them are still very loyal to him, that they know this
And they know
weird-
about this song.
Yes,
That was
like,
one of my questions.
It's
too.
weird. It's creepy. I don't like it. So I'm curious to see also not just what that connection is, but also how Millie fits in, because she is a Revenant, but she wasn't supposed to be a Revenant.
Right.
So like,
Right.
what is her connection to Colas, if any? Because she seems to know more than other people do.
Well, and
but-
she seems to not. She's not on his side.
no, she's not on Isba's side. Like,
Yeah.
it's all just kind of very.
mean, she's out there
confusing.
Well, and
killing
I'm
the other
curious about how she and Malik are going to end up too, because I don't necessarily feel like they should end up together. But I know they're heartmates, but she doesn't know.
See,
But
we
I don't know.
just-
It's a really weird situation.
Yeah, we just don't have enough information about.
I just
either
don't know
one of
how
them.
all of that's going to get wrapped up. I really
Yeah.
don't.
It's a lot. It's a lot. There are a lot of holes.
But I mean, if you
still
think
need to be filled
about
in.
how much new information we got in a retelling book,
I know.
I mean, I
I
guess
know.
JLA
It is
can
a
do
lot.
it, but
Isn't she going to write a book for Millicent and Malik?
Oh, I don't
And
know.
did I make that up?
I haven't.
I hadn't heard about it.
I haven't seen anything about that, like on Goodreads or anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing like in the queue, and everything else is.
That would 100% be a smart marketing move, though.
Yeah, I'll have to look. Well, I don't know why I think that. Maybe I just want that. So I just made it real. I'm going to make myself a bush, and I'm going to make that book a reality.
Pubes or plant?
Plant. Definitely a plant for me. What about you,
goodness.
Mindy?
So, yeah, you all brought up some really, really good questions. I had a couple just kind of offhand weird ones. Like, first of all, how come no one else went after Poppy when she ran? Like, Cass comes out and Elijah goes, he just stood there and he said, she just went into the woods. Like, why didn't he go after
Well, Cass
her?
told them that no one is to touch her.
I mean, but
Well, yeah, that's true.
true, I guess. But like, he's going to let her just run away. Like, I don't know. That
Well,
seems
Elijah's immortal too, isn't he?
Yes.
A mortal.
Yes.
So I mean, he wouldn't catch her. He's not going to be as good at it as Castile. You
And
know what I
it's
mean?
I mean,
snowing.
nobody's good at it as Castiel, but
Isn't it snowing horribly at this point too?
Yeah.
I guess I just felt like that was a little bit like it could have just
Yeah.
been nobody was there. Like, why did she throw that in there and he's just going to stand there? I don't know. And it doesn't matter because he ends up dying anyways. But
Harsh.
well, I'm just saying, like, it's not
Too
gonna,
soon,
It's
Mindy.
not going to be like something that comes back
Well,
up.
yeah. R.I.P. R.I.P.
The other
Elijah.
weird offhand thing that I caught is somebody says something about the first maiden, and Cass says there was no first maiden. And we've had this discussion over and over again, like, who's the first maiden? What is that? And he says there was no first maiden. So does he just not know about it, or does they make that all up for Poppy? Like, what's going on there?
I think I'm hoping in the next Flesh and Fire book that we kind of
we'll get a little bit of something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a weird one. But the big one for me was when the Revenant comes in, he calls Cass a fucking idiot false primal. So, like, what do they think he is?
That's
false
a good
primal.
point. Well, maybe they're saying that because he's joined with Poppy.
That's what I think.
And then I'm like, well, this is probably like way off. This is like an unhinged theory. Is he descended from Nyktos? He turned into the cat.
Ooh, I hope not. Because that means he's related to Poppy.
I know, it would be really weird.
No.
But, like, maybe that's just his connection with Poppy. But, like, it just was really weird. Like, why are they calling him a false primal? Is it his connection to Poppy, or because he's like, they're calling him because Poppy's the primal, like he's the false sidekick? I don't know. Like, you know?
No, I don't know. I know what I think.
Okay.
I think that it could be related to the fact that he's directly descended from a primal himself.
Okay, yeah.
Because we think that he's related to Addie's from the prequel series.
Which is what I always have
But
thought.
I think it's probably more just that he is joined with a primal, because at the beginning of the book, Nectus says something about them being joined with a primal, and Kieran and Castile are like, what? And he's like, you should probably be questioning that. Like, that's an important piece of information. Like, he says something about it and points it out. And I think that because they are joined to her, she is able to share her, like, ether with them. So, like, that's why he turned into a cave cat, is because of her
how does
power,
this Revenant know that, though?
Because Colas knows stuff. And for whatever reason, he's somehow telling them this, which is how this Revenant
weird.
would know about that weird, like, Poppy poem
It just
or whatever.
seems very weird.
It is weird. But I think that's because, see, one of the things that I wasn't super sure about is when Castile shifts, it was like, did he, because I know it says that it felt like it awakened some kind of magic in him, which I'm like, I wonder if that's from who he's descended from, like from Addie's or whatever. But how much of it was Poppy, like, subconsciously or unconsciously pushing power to him from her?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, their connection from the joining.
Well, even if she's in stasis, if they're joined, she could feel that he was injured.
Right.
So maybe she sent more down the bond.
Right. Well, and if she's able to do that, then that could make him a false primal, if he's able to not be a primal, but then have the powers of a primal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I do feel like because she said that, I had written that down a little bit later, too, that when Cass says he feels something deeper, she's leaving that open for something. Something's there. Something else is there.
Well, just like how she spent the first 4 books with Poppy saying Castile looked like one of those cave cats. He was, powerful like a cave cat.
Yeah.
He was sexy like a cave cat. Like, everything is comparing him to cave
it's
cats.
not a shocker.
It's kind of weird that she kept talking about how sexy cave cats were, because she's only ever seen one, and it was her dad.
Daddy issues.
Yeah, she definitely has those. She did watch her dad get slaughtered.
Daddy issues.
I did have a couple of little tidbits. First of all, Deb was right. I want to point out
What?
about the bones. You always had said you thought the bones in the cell that they were keeping her in, when they described the bones, you always thought that they were bones of the old gods, and they said that they were.
I'm so brilliant.
You
I missed
are.
that.
I was so excited. I got so excited. I was like, Deb was right.
You did
I'll be
it.
honest, I thought that they flat out said it. Did they not? That wasn't like a thing?
Not in Poppy's point of view.
Oh, all right. I guess I am smart. Woohoo.
But then just in general, I want to point out how much they all hate Jericho.
I know.
Like, all
everybody
of them. Like,
hates Jericho.
Cass,
I can't believe he lived as long as he did.
I know. Cass wants to laugh when Poppy, this is what I was talking about earlier, when Poppy wants to cut him, but he can't laugh because he knows everyone will attack her. But, like, Jericho's the idiot friend that everyone keeps around because they don't know what else to do with him. Like,
Pretty much.
and so they're all hoping somebody will kill him, but they don't want to be the one to do it.
Right. Except
Well, he was
Kieran.
willing to push
Yeah, I
the
know.
work. He was willing to push the work forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think,
And
they
he was willing to do
appreciated that.
dirty work, too, that I think probably people weren't necessarily willing to do.
right? And work that he was not supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Right. Stupid Jericho. But, oh well, R.I.P. Should we talk about what we liked most about the book overall?
Absolutely. Sure. I have to say, for me, it was learning more about the secondary characters. We've spent a lot of time talking about them in the last 3 episodes, and for me, it was mainly Emil and Elijah. So their service to Castile as their prince, as well as their banter, it just made the story really special for me to bring them in and to learn more about these kind of sassy sidekicks that we didn't know very much about.
Sassy sidekicks.
What did you enjoy with?
The last chapter. I keep wanting to say chapter 12, but it's present 12. The last chapter was my favorite. It was very action-packed. It was very classic, end of a JLA book of like, wait, what? Like everything kind of goes off the rails.
Yeah.
She's really good at cliffhangers, but not cliffhangers where you're like, well, why the fuck did you just do that?
Yeah.
And not ones that make you mad.
Right. They're never cliffhangers where you're like, okay, so you're just trying to like sell your next book. Right. It never feels that way.
Yeah.
Which that's a mean thing to say about authors, and I don't want to lend any offense, and there's nothing wrong with having a cliffhanger. I actually particularly enjoy them. But if your cliffhanger is just a cliffhanger for no reason, it can be quite irritating.
Yeah, hers are always, I cannot wait to read the next next part and what's going to happen. Right. Yeah, I really love it.
But it's never like cut it off in the middle of the like big action. Like you get the climax of it all, and then there's like one other like lingering thing, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, like some other authors may have ended the book when the Revenant like threw the bone dagger at Poppy.
Right.
And then like fade to black or whatever.
Right. And you're like, well, what happened to Poppy?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's just cliffhanging to cliffhang.
Yeah. Right.
Is that the correct term?
To cliffhang.
Sure.
Yes, sure.
To cliffhang. Verb. Mindy, what about
was
you?
yours?
I honestly just generally liked getting answers to some questions that I had, like some of the closed door scenes where like Cass killed the Duke and those kinds of things. But it also made me a little more sympathetic to Cass during those chapters that we discussed when we were doing From Blood and Ash, where we were like, I don't really like Cass very much. Like, why is he such a dick? Like, what is going on here? But when you see the anguish that he was going through and just everything he was grappling with, that's like morally gray at its finest. Where
go
ahead. I was just gonna say where it just, we even still like, we didn't want to dislike him, and so we knew there was a reason, and then we get it in these chapters.
It reminds me of Silver Flames, which is not a Court of Silver Flames, which is not a great example because Castile is so like universally loved by the fandom and Nesta is very not, but it reminds me of that, in that it's like, I don't necessarily like what you did, but I at least understand why you did it.
Yes.
Right? I have a deeper understanding, even if I still disagree with the choices that you made as a character, which I really appreciate.
So I have a few things I'd like to say to JLA before we wrap up.
She's
book.
Listening. So.
I know. So number 1, please do not let Emil go bad on us. I've really fallen in love with him in this book, and I continue to be worried. I know you disagree with.
Same for Delano.
Right. Same for Delano. Like the more we've talked about this book in particular, the more you make me think, Whitney, that Nail is up to something. Neil, whatever you would like to call him. And then number 2, to JLA, just RIP to Elijah. I can tell that she really loved him as a character. And then number 3, thanks for writing one of my favorite book series of all time. Yeah. This and The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. Good job, ladies. Mindy, do you have anything you'd want to say to her?
I wrote, thank you, because like we got a lot answered, but also in the space of that one last chapter, she opened up like 8 cans of worms, which I love actually. So that's why I was like, thank you, ? Like, it's like, but yay.
We kind of want to have angry sex with you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I just would say, like, well done. We got snarky Cass back after kind of missing him a little bit in War of Two Queens. We've got what I feel like a lot of scenes that were, quote, fan service that people really wanted to read from his POV, but they were very well done.
They weren't just gratuitous.
Yes, it wasn't fan service today, for fan service's sake.
And this is no offense to Stephanie Meyer, but, we got Edward's point of view in Midnight Sun, and it was literally verbatim the same information we had already read. I actually DNF'd that book. I hate to say that out loud, but that's what I loved about this book, is you got his point of view with brand new information.
It is a lot of new information.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But sorry about Midnight Sun. Not my favorite.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella. I'm just thinking through all kinds of quotes now.
All these glittery earrings going around with Edward Cullen's
Yes.
face, like glitter acrylic in his face. I
They're
love
actually
them so
kinda
much.
cute.
They are really
But-
cute.
But yeah. Anything else about this book? A Soul of Ash and Blood?
I really enjoyed it.
I
Can't
did
wait
too.
for the next one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited.
It's going to be a while. I don't. There's
know.
not even a release date for the next book because we have.
No, I think it's just 2024.
Flesh and Fire book. We've got Miss Willa's book,
and then her new.
and the compendium.
That's Miss Willis.
That's Miss Willa's.
Oh, that's
book.
Miss Willa's,
And then
the new book. Yeah, I forget what it's called. I'll link it in the show notes, but it comes out like on September 12th or something. So actually, not that far away.
Yeah, it is in about a month.
Yeah,
That's true.
So I did pre-order it.
I haven't yet.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call it Rage and Ruin, but that's from another one of her series.
Storm and Fury? Is that one of her
No,
other
that's
series
that's the first book in that Rage and Ruin series.
too? Ruin and Wrath.
Ruin and Wrath is the new one. We'll link it.
Yeah.
I left my phone in the other room, so I
Right.
can't do my quick
Yeah.
Googling. I don't know.
You're Googling.
Googling. Well, what about our nerdiest thing of the week?
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
What was yours, Mindy?
Well, I kind of had a shitty week, you guys. So I honestly could not think of a single thing this week that happened that was nerdy and fun. So I'm going to pull out of the vault and give you Mindy's nerdiest thing from the 1980s.
Ooh.
So in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, there was this TV show called Dance Party USA.
Yeah, there was.
And it was on the USA Network. So it was like cable, right? And I don't know what it was about that show. It was just really fun. And they had regulars on there, right? Kind of like Hairspray or, Dick Clark, whatever, Bandstand. So they had these regulars on there that then they would do spotlight dances and all this stuff. So there was this girl named Aubrey on there and she was so punk rock and cool. And I just loved her and I wanted to be her so bad that for 2 weeks I tried really, really hard to get everyone to call me Aubrey. And I was going to change my name. And I even made a little ID card and everything. And I still have the ID card.
Oh my gosh. Is it made out of paper?
It is made out of construction paper. And it's got triangles and confetti and very 80s things that I've drawn with bubble letters.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
I'll have to take a picture of it and we can post that.
That's pretty.
Mine?
I've got so much in the vault, you guys. If I ever don't have a nerdiest thing of the week, I've got plenty of material.
My nerdiest thing of the week actually has to deal with Jennifer L. Armentrout.
Oh.
So we were going out for a friend's birthday on Friday night, and they were running a little bit late, and we were across the street from a Half Price Books. We only had 10 minutes. I did not have any problems finding 4 books to buy, but 3 of them were the first 3 books in Jennifer Armentrout's Lex series, which I've never read, but kind of what the kind of made her a fandom author. So I'm really excited about reading those because the male character is supposed to be super yummy like Cass is.
I hear about that a lot. I'm interested to
I've
see
read a lot of good
what you
things,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read those someday.
Just so you know, you said I had 10 minutes in Half Price Books, and I immediately thought of Supermarket Sweep. Running through Half Price Books, trying to get as many books
I
as
run
you
to the
could.
clearance section. I look through it. I run to the YA clearance section, look through that, and then I go to the YA section. Then I go to the adult paranormal fantasy section. That is my supernatural sweep. Whitney, how were you a nerd this week?
Well, everyone will be happy to hear that I finally started reading Fourth Wing.
God, it's about fucking time.
I know.
My daughter's listening to it right now. She'll come in the room and she'll be like, "Do you want to listen to Fourth Wing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
I was talking to a girl at the bar studio, and she was like, "I just started reading this book called Fourth Wing," and I was like, oh, "Okay."
You're like,
It's
even
made
people
it to
that
the
don't
masses.
read or read
right,
it.
right. Well, we talked for a while, and I was like, "You should listen to my podcast." And she's really sweet. And then the other nerdy thing, I'm going to be very vague about it because it was actually part of a research project for a university here in the States about multi-level marketing. So they want everything to be very anonymous. So I don't want to say what university it is or anything like that. But I randomly got connected with this professor who's doing a research project on multi-level marketing. And since I was a part of multi-level marketing for a really long time, I did an hour-and-a-half interview.
Oh, that's cool.
And she was like, "This was only supposed to be 30 minutes."
Welcome
You're
to
I
our
have a
podcast.
lot to say. Welcome.
I was like, I have a lot of things to talk about. So I have a fake name for if she uses any of my information and stuff.
Is it Aubrey?
It isn't. That's funny.
I'm hoping it's like Celeste, Crystal.
I picked a bookish character name.
Nesta.
Is it Poppy? No. It's Nesta, you liar.
No.
I'm going to know it's you.
Yeah, everybody would be like, well, that's definitely Whitney Weaver.
It's Feyre.
But anyway, it was really cool. It was cool to be a part of a research project. And I told her at the end, I was like, this was very much like a therapy session. So thank you for letting me talk as long as I did. So
I love
it was cool.
It. What are we reading next?
Our next book is A Realm of Ash and Shadow by Lara Buckheit. We're going to start that in 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to have a fun author interview for everybody to listen to.
Ooh.
And if you haven't listened to our interview with Lara, it's hysterical. So go do that and prep for.
Yeah, we actually have like a extra post too of some video time with her as well. She's hilarious.
Super fun.
Yeah, she was really fun to talk to.
And she will we're doing 3 episodes for her book, and she's actually going to be on the final episode
Yeah,
with
she's gonna
us to
join
talk
us.
about her book.
Yes.
I can't wait. She's really fantastic and very body. I was going to say body and sex positive.
Yes.
So I enjoy.
She fits
our
right in with
conversations with her
Yeah,
very
that
much.
fits in with us
Yes.
very well. So
100%. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.